Good afternoon. I'm LANDON, co-chair of the Montclair Environmental Commission. We welcome you to today's dedication of the Montclair habitat for bees, birds, butterflies. And you're going to hear from a number of people today who are experts on those subjects. And we also serve the municipality as well as the citizenry. And we have two guests here today that I'd like to introduce, Councilman Sean Spiller and Councilwoman Robin SCHLAGER. Sean?
Well, thank you, Lyle, and thank you also to the Environmental Commission. Thank you to all the partners who really helped to make this project a reality. And of course, thank you to all of you for taking the time to come out here today. I think it's great when we see all of the Montclair community come together for something like this and for so many other projects. And I've really had a chance to see that firsthand. As the 3rd Ward Councilman, I've had the great fortune of being a liaison to the Environmental Commission for the last 5 years or so. It goes quick, but I've really been able to see up close the great work that's done, whether it be projects like this, whether it be township projects, working with Gray Russell and others on lighting, green lighting throughout the township, whether it be when we've looked at other gardens and areas for improvement. When we've done projects and activities, I know that just in August, the Environmental Commission led a trail walk through the Lenape Trail starting in Brookdale Park, ending at Applegate Farms, which is a nice ending spot, I might add. But I know 60+ people were able to join and really appreciate what we have here in Montclair. Things like the sapling giveaway, which has really turned into such a great success over the last number of years in April as part of our Arbor Day celebration. People able to come out, grab trees, plant those trees, and help increase the density, our green density here in town. You've really seen so many things that really keep Montclair at the forefront when we talk about environmental issues. We've seen it with our use of charging stations early on. You see it when we talk about ride sharing in town. And you're seeing it going forward. We're talking right now about energy aggregation and how we can really all come together as a community, not just to save money, but to also demand even a greener energy supply. So I am really just proud to be one of many who do so much in this town, starting really with the Environmental Commission, its members, and so many others who care about our environment and have the skill sets to really bring forward the work that we do. So on behalf of the council and my colleagues, I just want to say thank you for what you do, and I'm so proud to be a part of this here today. And with that, I'd like to introduce our Deputy Mayor, Robin SCHLAGER.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you all for being here today. This is really a nice turnout here. Besides being the deputy mayor, which doesn't really bring all that much fanfare to my job, I am the 2nd Ward Councilwoman, and this is my ward. This is the heart of my ward, and how happy I was to see that this forgotten little plot of land here has this wonderful pollinator program here, all to the efforts of the Environmental Commission, and I really feel really lucky to have all of you dedicated folks who are on the commission. This is really great. I'm also have a spot. I represent the council on the planning board, and one thing that's been in our charge now for almost a year, and will continue to go along for at least another year, is the Lackawanna redevelopment piece of over by Lackawanna, which is actually in the 4th Ward, but being on the planning board, we get to see that come past us. And the Environmental Commission has been instrumental in the last 6 months or so in making recommendations to that plan. And because of the hard work of the commission, we have incorporated a larger green space in front of on Bloomfield Avenue, where hopefully where the new grocery store, supermarket will be, and also a water feature behind it as well. And I have to say that every planning board meeting, somebody's been there in the audience at those meetings, and it's so gratifying to see that. So I really applaud all your efforts. This park is there's a lot more to do here. So anything I could do to support that effort, and also across the street by the New Jersey Transit, there's lots of green space there as well that needs a little overhaul, and I'm happy to support that and anything I could do. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you all very soon.
I'd like to introduce to you Avery Federico, and he is with the Montclair Community Farms. He has a wonderful mobile farm stand truck over there where you can buy fresh produce and fruit. He's going to tell you about where you can buy it in Montclair all the time, not just today, as well as the role of pollinators in producing that wonderful product. Avery.
Thank you. My name's Avery Federico. I'm here today representing Montclair Community Farms. We are a very collaborative effort. We have a lot of different partners for health, Rutgers 4-H, Montclair State University, just to name a few. And what we do is we grow produce in Montclair. 2 sites that we have are on Orange Road, right behind the History Center, and we have a site on Miller Street where we do a lot of volunteering. We like to get community involvement. And after doing that for a while, we realized that we have all this produce and what can we do with it? We decided to bring it to the seniors of Montclair. So every Friday we take our farm truck and farm stand out to different sites in Montclair where senior housing centers are. We go to Pine Ridge and First House every Friday, and then Thursdays we kind of go all around Montclair. And other than that, you can find our farm truck at the History Center all the time. And today we're selling some stuff too.
So now to the story about our pollinator garden. As Robin said, it does spruce up the place, but it really does more than that. When a survey was done asking people why is the bee population declining, the answer was really loss of habitat, and that's due to development, and the second reason, of course, is pesticides. So we on the Environmental Commission decided, well, we can help increase habitats by providing one. So that's exactly what we have done. So we got a grant from ANJAC. ANJAC is an acronym. It stands for the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions. So they gave us a grant to buy supplies, and we then, of course, had to round up a team. So key to the team, of course, was the master gardeners, many of whom are here today. I'd like them to wave, and they will be around afterwards to answer some questions. And they were terrific in terms of advising us the shape of the garden, how big it should be, the plants that we should plant, and then even beyond that, not only did they do the design, but they have been so generous with their time in terms of weeding and watering, because this park is without either electricity or water. So they've really done a great job. So thank you to them. So it's very interesting, the whole concept of pollination, which of course is that there's a male part of the plant and the female part of the plant, but they need to get together. And it's our wonderful pollinators that actually make that transfer possible. And it's called self-pollinating when it happens within the same plant, but it's called cross-pollinating if it goes from one plant to the other plant. And so we have experts here to tell us more about that, and we're going to start out with our bee expert, if he would please come forward. Mr. Eric Benson. Eric is going to talk to you about bees and also about being a beekeeper in Montclair. Thank you, Eric.
Hi everybody, my name is Eric Benson. I am a beekeeper here in Montclair, New Jersey. I live down in the 4th Ward. I picked it up when I moved into the house. The folks that were moving out had some bees, and they said, would you be interested in continuing to maintain them? And we love gardening and we love flowers, and it's part of our lifestyle anyway, so that's where I got started and I learned about it. So I'm so glad to have the pollinator garden here. Looking around Montclair, if you know what you're looking for, there's food for pollinators all around us. Montclair Township does a great job in their parks and playgrounds, on the school grounds. Throughout the township, they don't use pesticides. So in the schoolyard or in the parks, there's clover, there's dandelion. That's all food for bees, so that's really great. When bees go out to forage, there's 2 things that they're looking for. One of them is nectar, and that's what they'll turn into honey down the road. The other thing that they gather, on accident and on purpose, is pollen. So pollen is how they transfer the pollen from one plant to another, which is very important for all kinds of food seeds, vegetables. Whether we eat the vegetable with the seed in it or not, like bees are critical for celery. You don't eat the celery seed, but if they don't pollinate the celery plants, then there won't be a next generation of celery plants. Any coffee drinkers out there, coffee will pollinate itself to some extent, but we get more coffee and a better quality because bees help pollinate coffee crops. I have here with me, this is a 1 pound jar of honey. I was wondering if anyone in the audience wants to take a guess. How many flowers does a bee colony have to visit in order to produce 1 pound of honey? Do you see this at the store? Anyone want to take a guess?
1,000, 5,000.
Higher.
Really?
Higher.
10 million?
Closer. Higher.
500,000.
Really?
So it's 2 million flowers to get about a 1 pound of honey. So Suzanne here, you get prize. You get a little jar of honey. So you can just imagine when people say busy as a bee, they are from sun up to sundown going out and foraging about 2 million flowers in order to produce just 1 pound of honey. That's also about 50,000 bee miles. That's how far they have to travel to collect enough nectar to get 1 pound of honey. So really incredible creatures. There's a lot of different insects that are out there that might be yellow and black and have some stripes. The main difference between bees and not bees is whether they have hair or not. And the hair is what helps them transfer the pollen to the different plants and what they'll gather. So anything that's shiny and doesn't have any hair, that's bees, wasps, and anything that's shiny and doesn't have hair is going to be wasps and hornets. And so if someone says, oh, can you come get this out of my house or not? I say, well, does it have hair or not? Because I'm not taking out a hornet's nest. But honeybees are very beneficial insects. So glad to have the pollinator garden here. One, it's habitat, but it's also great for raising awareness in the community. There's this very strong beekeeping community within Montclair. It's a wonderful place to be, and I'm glad to be here. So thanks for having me out today.
So now I'm going to turn it over to our musical group, and we have Dane Alexander from the Montclair Music Studio, and he is going to perform Flight of the Bumblebee.
So if I could, I'd just like to give a brief introduction. Just talk a little bit about the piece I'm about to play. It's called Flight of the Bumblebee, and it's written by Russian composer Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov for his opera The Tale of Tsar Sultan. It was composed in around about 1900, and it's meant to depict the flight of a bumblebee as he is escaping his enemies to try to find his father. And, you know, that's what it is. So I hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Dane. That was fabulous. Great. So next up, we have birds. So we have Sandy Sorkin from the Montclair Bird Club, who's going to tell us about how birds pollinate. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I brought along some pictures of some birds over there if people are interested. Birds as pollinators are sort of interesting because here in the Americas, the only birds that we really have that are pollinators are the hummingbirds and some of the honey creepers. In our area, we really only have the ruby-throated hummingbird, but every now and then you might see a small orange one that comes in, the rufous hummingbird, and they are spreading across the country. The further south you go, the more hummingbirds you see, and if you make your way to Arizona and even into Mexico, you see more and more, and by the time you get down into South America, you find out that we have hundreds of varieties of these hummingbirds. But while they're not all pollinating directly the way the bees are doing, they are kind of busy with the plants. And if they are going to your garden, they will frequently hit the flowers and get pollen on them, and they will then, of course, transfer that to the next plant that they visit. Most of the birds aren't doing that directly because if they're thinking in terms of pollinating. Of course, they're really just thinking in terms of getting food. So they'll be eating insects and things like that. As a bird watcher, sometimes you go out and you're looking at birds and they look very familiar to you, but they look like they're wearing white hats. And that is usually an instance where they have been hitting a lot of flowers and they have the pollen all over their heads. So you know that they're doing their jobs out there. The honey creepers are also pollinating just the way the hummingbirds are, and they are beautiful, colorful birds. They will hang upside down off of the plants in any position they need to be to make sure that they can actually get to the food that they're looking for. As you're out there looking at these birds, keep in mind that they're doing more than just moving the pollen around. If you've ever been to a mountain lake and wondered where the fish came from in those lakes, well, those are birds landing in the lakes, and they've carried eggs from other ponds that they've been in, and that's how the fish spread around. If you look at the trees and the flowers in the trees, you'll find that the birds are up there feeding off of the insects and also spreading the pollen up there as well. So they do an awful lot, and I don't know that anybody or everybody's aware of the fact that Montclair actually has 2 bird sanctuaries. One is up by the railroad tracks off of Normal, and the other one is the Bonsall Preserve, which is off of Alexander Avenue, where on a good day in the fall, you will easily see 50 different varieties of birds back there. So they're doing their job, whether it's eating insects so that the plants live, or actually doing the pollinating. They're out there and they are all very busy. When you plant the gardens, though, keep in mind that the butterflies that are coming in are aware of scent and aroma. The birds are not. They're looking for big blotches of color. So the more color there is, the more birds that you'll attract. If you're interested in doing anything more with birds, the Montclair Bird Club does meet second Wednesday of the month. You're welcome to come to meetings. You're welcome to go on our bird walks, and we would enjoy having your company. Thank you.
Hi, now we're going to have music. We're going to have the song Blackbird played by Elias and Jacob. As was mentioned, I'm Lillian Rockwood from the Garden Club of Montclair, and I'm part of I have been the chair of the youth committee at the Garden Club. And 2 years ago, when the Garden Club of New Jersey more or less tried to get, or has established the black swallowtail as the New Jersey state butterfly. So with very simple props, we've done presentations, we've included different curriculum, provided seeds for the children to plant, tried to indicate a little bit about the kinds of plants that butterflies need, and then we've provided butterfly kits for the kids in the school. Last year we started 2 gardens. This year we have added the Montclair Pollinator Garden
is probably a good name for it, as a teaching garden. And hopefully what we are doing is educating the community about the needs. As we were talking about bees, you know, one of their first and most important crops are really dandelions. And when everybody here in Montclair has such beautiful green lawns, they've probably gone about diminishing the dandelions by using pesticides. And when those pesticides are brought back and turned into honey, for the most part, that honey has a bit of poison in it. And it really eliminates some of the bees' ability to their immune system. It diminishes their immune system. So when we consider having our own habitats, it's important for us to remember not to use pesticides. And one of the ways that you can more or less create strong and healthy plants are providing the very best environment for them. One that consists of extremely good soil for them to grow in. Healthy plants are resistant to different kinds of fungi and you know, different kinds of bugs and so forth and so on. So that's one of the things to remember when you have when you're creating your habitat. Other things, other habitat considerations seem a little bit elementary, should we say. However, it's important to remember that when you're putting a garden together, probably it's important to have some kind of shelter from the elements. So if you look at trees that kind of shelter this particular habitat, or some kind of a hedge or a wall, when there are strong winds or rains, it kind of protects the chrysalises and the larval stages. So it's another important consideration, some kind of shelter. So in addition to soil that is very wonderful soil, we need shelter. In addition to that, we need a water source. It's something that one should consider, and yet oftentimes it's not that available. So water source is important for two reasons. Of course, the one that's most obvious is we need it to water the plants. And in this case, we really don't have a readily available water source, and so LYLE has been out here faithfully with her watering cans, or what would we call them, bottles or jugs or something, spraying. And the other thing that we do is also use drought-resistant plants that are native to our environment, that don't require that much watering and will survive during a drought. So that was another consideration. We also have what we call puddling places in some of our gardens, some of the local school gardens. And basically, our pollinators need a way of getting minerals from the soil in a liquid form. So if you've got a puddle that's not too deep and doesn't encourage the mosquitoes, you also will have a source of minerals that butterflies can lap up with their proboscis, whatever. So that's a second reason to have some kind of water. Don't be afraid of a few puddles every now and then. They really enjoy it. In addition to that, you need a sunny location, and the obvious reason is for the plants that you have. However, butterflies are also solar powered, and they like sunning spots. They like a rock or something, and I actually have one of our little gardens that we started, and it shows how the children have taken rocks and gone around and made circular, they've painted them, and made sort of like a butterfly shape, so that the butterflies have places to sit and sun and solar power up or whatever. So there, and just in addition to that, by the end of the summer, and you probably can't see this, and so I'll pass them around, we have the rocks. We have all of these wonderful, what we call host plants. And I'll explain that in a minute. And of course, one black swallowtail butterfly. So you can see how it all kind of has worked favorably. So we've got sun and water and shelter and good soil, no pesticides, and of course then the most important part of having a garden is to have plants that will provide hosts, a host plant for the caterpillar and larval stage, so that they have food to eat, and secondly the nectar plants. If you have these components in your garden, you're going to attract butterflies. Primarily, they'll come for the nectar. And when they come for the nectar and they find that there are also host plants, they will lay their eggs there. And that's really what we would like to see happen more and more. So for the black swallowtail butterfly, which is again our state butterfly now, their host plants are the carrot family, which consists of fennel and dill carrots. And even Queen Anne's lace, it's very invasive, but it can be used as a host plant. The nectar plants are any variety of plants that you have. Monarchs require milkweed, and I think that somebody else is going to talk to us in depth about the monarch butterfly and their host and nectar plants perhaps. So on that note, I will say, I hope everyone, oh, and we have flyers. So I will pass out flyers to anyone that's interested in reviewing the elements of the habitat and seeing if you can put one in your own backyard. Should be exciting to see a few butterflies. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian, and thanks again to the Montclair Garden Club, which provided all the signage. That was the second grant that made this a much better place. I also want to say that Trina Paulus is with us today, and she has live butterflies for you to see, and she will be doing a release of them after the conclusion of the program, so I know that you'll enjoy that. So now we have our last subject matter, which is bats. And I'd like to introduce Master Gardener and member of the Montclair Environmental Commission, Suzanne APTMAN, to talk about bats, and then to point out some of our great plants in our pollinator garden. Suzanne?
Hello. So bats. Oh, bats. Okay. True or false? Especially the children in the crowd. Bats want to suck our blood.
True!
False! In reality, sorry, I have some notes. In reality, the only thing they eat in this part of the world are insects. People don't know that. In other parts of the world, they do eat nectar, but the bats that live here only eat insects. And they are the only predators of night-flying insects. True or false? They don't have much benefit the way bees do, except to creep us out.
False!
So they control immense amount of insects in New Jersey and in the Northeast, which helps to keep a healthy ecosystem. In fact, the things that we dislike the most, many of us, are mosquitoes. So, can you guess how many, and the winner gets one of Eric's lovely pennies, how many mosquito-sized insects do you think single little brown bats, which are the most common bats in New Jersey, can eat in one night?
100,000. 3 million.
32.
100,000. One bat. One bat per night. Yeah. Eric set the standard high. They're not 50. It's actually 3,000. Sean Spiller. But I think to make a point that, we don't need to use toxic pesticides, right, to kill insects, just as our other gardeners were talking about. We can just help to bring bats to our yards. Okay, true or false?
Bats are responsible for you being able to eat some of your favorite foods like bananas, avocados, cashews, and mangoes. True or true? True. In certain parts of the world, bats play a major role in pollinating those flowers. And they drop a wide variety of seeds in open areas, and they also help to restore the tropical rainforests. But like I said, they don't serve as pollinators here, they have other benefits. Okay, true or false? Bats are a mammal, not a bird. True. Bats are the only truly flying mammals. They belong to the order Chiroptera, and they're not rodents. A lot of people think they're rodents. They're mammals because they have hair, they give birth to live young, and they feed their young milk produced by mammary glands. And they tend to only have one offspring per year, which they call pups, or we call them. True or false? Bats are dirty and spread dirt. False. They clean themselves more than the average house cat, which is a lot. You may also have heard the expression blind as a bat. True or false? Are they blind? Yes. False. They can see. They're not the greatest seers. They actually have to use their daylight vision at night. But the way they get around and hunt is they use something called, wow, yes, echolocation, which enables bats to use their large and well-developed ears to navigate and catch prey in total darkness. So they open their mouths in flight and emit a series of ultrasonic sound pulses. These pulses bounce off nearby objects such as bushes, fences, branches, and insects, then return as echoes to the bat's ear. So using this information, a bat can maneuver to capture an insect or avoid flying into an object. Insects also can hear the sounds that they make and avoid being hunted. Okay, isn't it fascinating? Yeah. True or false? There are 9 species of bats in New Jersey.
True.
True. There are 9 species. Some are part-time residents, and 6 of them are here through the whole year, and the rest go south and for the winter. But when they're here, they hibernate. Finally, bats have been in decline for many years. True or false?
True.
Some of the biggest threats include loss of forest habitats and roost trees, disturbance of winter dens, and I wrote persecution by people. That's a little harsh, but also, as an environmental commissioner, this is difficult to share, but wind energy development is also raising concerns as wind farms crop up along the corridors used by migratory bats. However, they now know that, and so they're learning to turn them off at certain times. So, you can attract bats to your yard by allowing for these beneficial insects to exist. You can build bat houses, and you can look online and figure out how to do that, and providing water sources also helps. So that's bats. And just to add to what everyone else has shared about the garden, you can walk around and see the different things that we've planted, and in the thinking, we wanted to attract different species so that we would have diversity of butterflies and bees. But also we put plants in there that bloom at different times of the year so that the pollinators will always have a source of pollen. So you have the early risers, which are the violets in the front, which look like they've been chomped on a little bit, but that's okay, they're not blooming now. And then in the back you have the goldenrod, which you can see are just starting to bloom, the tall yellow ones. And Eric's excited because his bees love goldenrod this time of year. So when you think about your gardens, think also about how you can plant to sustain throughout the year. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I do have to say one more thing, I'm sorry. Elias wanted me to share this. He didn't get a chance to share it. Elias and Jacob started an initiative called Eco-Kind People a few years ago. They organize efforts to help the environment and its inhabitants. They have organized litter cleanups and donations for rescued animals. They are in the process of making an educational video about pollinators. If you would like a free copy when they are finished, you can sign up on their email list at the table. Also, any kids that would like to participate for future eco missions can sign up as well with their emails. Thank you.
Let's hear it for the band. Sustainability Officer Gray Russell and everyone who was a presenter to come up so we can just have one shot. All of those that worked on the pollinator garden, I'd really appreciate you coming up here too. And everyone will be hanging around afterwards to talk to all of you. Gray, everyone please come up who presented and spoke at the microphone.
I just want to salute the Environmental Commission and LYLE for having put this garden together. What a great example of community outreach, which Montclair is so well known for, and I thought it was really a great event. And that garden looks fantastic. It obviously serves a great role as a pollinator habitat and also as a teaching tool. All of those go together so well. My mom, who lived here in Montclair for 90 years, I thought she had taught me all about the birds and the bees, but I learned a lot today. So obviously it's got a great role. So great job to the Environmental Commission, and congratulations.
Thank you all.
Well done.